Now with this type of an array, this is a simple array, the indexes are assigned to the array items automatically. But we can also define our own indexes, which can provide more useful data inside of an array. This is called an associative array. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple examples of that. I'm going to exit out of the source code, and I'm going to jump back to the resource pack directory, and I'm going to open up the 9th step, which is called Associative Arrays. I'm going to go ahead and copy this code and paste it over the code that's currently in my test.php file and save it. So the structure here is very similar to the previous example we were working with. If we jump back and forth, you can see that we're doing some similar things here. We're first defining an array, then we're adding an item to an array, and then we're printing an item inside of that array. Finally, we're looking at the entire contents of the array using var dump. So let's take a look at the differences here between this, an associative array, and a simple array that we used before. To define the array, we're using the array function again, but instead of simply assigning it a list of strings, we have 2 parts to each item that we're adding to the array. The first part is our key. In this case, our key is called George. And the second part here is the value that we're going to assign to this key. So before, the keys were automatically created, starting at the number 0 and working their way up in numbers. In this case, we're using our own string as the key. In between, you see an equal sign and a right-facing bracket. You'll see this syntax used later on as well, but what this says is on the left side we have the key, and on the right side we have the value. And you see that for Sally we have the same thing. Sally is the key, then we're using this equal sign and a right-facing bracket, and then we're assigning it a value. Now if we want to add a new item to this, we're using the same square bracket structure, but instead of leaving this empty, we're adding our key inside of this square bracket. So we're saying that Lucy is the key, and we're assigning the value to this key by using an equal sign. So it's important to note here that we're using an equal sign here, but when we're assigning items inside of the array variable, we're using the equal sign and then the right-facing bracket. And finally, when we're ready to print one of these variables to the screen, we would reference the index we gave each item instead of using the numbers like we did with the simple array. So we would say myArray George in order to print the value assigned to George, which is 1972. At the end of this file, we're using var dump in order to explore the entire contents of this array. Let's go ahead and make sure that this file is saved and jump back to the browser and refresh. So sure enough, our first line shows 1972, which, if we go back to our code, is the value that's assigned to the George index here. So as we print myArray George, we should expect this number. I'm going to jump back to the browser, and let's go ahead and take a look at the source code so we can explore the full array. So we used var dump in order to display this array. Again, we have the type of variable that it is and the number of items inside of it. So this is an array with 4 items inside. And then just like before, it shows us the key and then the value. Now that we're looking at an associative array instead of a simple array, we're seeing that the index is a string and then the value is an integer. So it's showing us here that George is the index. You can tell because of these square brackets around it. And the value of it is the integer 1972. In this line, Sally is the index, and then the value is an integer 1975, and so on. Now you're going to find that both in Drupal and in any custom applications that you build in PHP, that the array type of variable is going to be used an awful lot. And in the next couple of videos, you're going to see why. So first of all, we looked at simple arrays. Next, we looked at associative arrays, where we define the index. Next, we're going to look at multidimensional arrays, which, if we're thinking of arrays as list, is basically a hierarchical list.